Thank you, Toastmaster Akash, for that introduction. Good evening, everyone. Today is an evaluation workshop. Now, I will forego the speech about how evaluation is there in everybody's life in all fields and so on. And let us today focus on speech evaluations in Toastmasters. Now, before I start, just to get an idea of the profile of the group, can you just put a virtual thumbs up if you have been in Toastmasters for, say, less than 6 months? Yeah, anyone like that? All right, that means you would have done evaluation, a few of them, but not many. And how many of you have taken part in contests earlier? Okay. So we have a fair mix of people. So what I hope to do is to address all of you at whatever stage you are at. And I hope whether you're starting on your journey or whether you're an advanced evaluator who is used to contests, all of you will have something to take away from today's workshop. Now with that, let me start my presentation. Is the screen visible, Akash? All right. So today's workshop is a double barrel gun. Now, why do I call it a double barrel gun? An evaluation per se is focused on helping the speaker, right? Because an evaluation speech is quite different from all other speeches which are addressed to the audience. And this one is addressed to the speaker. And the goal is for him to become a better speaker. But when we are preparing for a contest, there is another gentleman who has to be made happy. And that is the judge. So by the end of the next 40-45 minutes, we hope to learn both these things: how to help the speaker and how to wow the judge. And the way we will do it is, we will start by seeing how to do a good evaluation. And in order to do that, I will take you through my personal journey. When I learned evaluation and what I found difficult, how I overcame them, and how I do it now. And I hope that will provide some inputs as to how to go about improving evaluations. Somewhere along the way, we will take a look at how a judge looks at the evaluator's performance and see whether we are in sync, that is, we are going in the correct direction. I hope that will work. So let's get going. Firstly, I feel that every evaluator is faced with 4 challenges. This is what I faced, and let me share that with you. The first challenge that I faced was how to note everything that is relevant in the speech. We will go into what they mean. Second challenge is how to choose out of all that what is important to talk about. Thirdly, after having identified that, how to deliver it in a structured, positive, and acceptable manner. And fourthly, how to do the damn thing in 3.25 minutes, because 3.5 minutes is all that has been given to us as evaluators. So, in the next half an hour or so, we will look at how to note everything that is relevant in the speech, how to choose what is important out of that to talk about, how to deliver the thing, and how to do it in time. So if you're able to do these 4 things, I feel that we become an accomplished evaluator as far as the speaker is concerned. So let's take them one by one. Note all that is relevant. Now, what do I mean by that? When I started evaluating, I immediately found that I was faced with 2 distinct difficulties as soon as the speaker gets up to speak. The first is, when the speaker is speaking, I become so engrossed in the speech that I forget to write down anything on my sheet of paper, which remains blank at the end of those 7 minutes. And the second is, when I'm writing, I miss things that are being said, because somehow I cannot multitask. I mean, I am told ladies can do that, but I'm sure not all of them will be able to do this also. That is, write and hear a speech at the same time. It's very difficult. And the other aspect is, I could never be sure that I have not missed anything of particular importance that is to be evaluated in a speech, because there are so many aspects to look at when we are looking at a speech, right? So how to note all that is relevant without losing track of the speech? That was my first challenge. Now I found that in order to do this efficiently, we cannot be unstructured. We have to do it in a strategic manner. So I always use a checklist. Now a checklist, my checklist looks something like this. Now this is an evaluator's checklist. What does it have? It has something on the top, which is about the speech, title, etc. It has got a list of parameters on the left on which the speech is to be judged. And it has got a noting space for what is good about that particular parameter or point and what could have been improved. Let me just take you through this so that it's more legible to you. See, in the header, we are talking about who's the speaker, what's the title, what type of speech it is, and what is the theme. Now, where are these used? Usually when we are introducing the evaluation, that is starting off on the evaluation, you might like to mention these. That, we heard a speech today, it's an inspirational speech on the theme of women's empowerment. So in one shot, you cover what is the scope of the speech that you have heard. And it shows that you have listened to the speech. Now, apart from this very broad level of information, a speech is usually looked at from 3 points of view or 3 dimensions. The first one is structure of the speech. The second is content, and the third is delivery. Structure, content, delivery. Now, what do each of these mean? You can see that my sheet is divided into these 3, but each of these have a certain set of items that is looked at. So when we talk about the structure of a speech, we're basically looking at what is the title? Does it go with the speech? How's the opening? It's a strong opening. How's the closing? Does it have a message? How are the transitions between the different sections of the speech? Does it go smoothly or does it seem to jump? How's the logical flow? Does the speaker go back and forth in his logic or chronology, or is it smooth? And how's the speech development per se? The concepts and the examples, are they balanced or are they out of balance? These are all part of speech structure. Now, each of these are worth a workshop on their own, but today I'm just mentioning one line for each so that you have an idea as to what are the parameters which go into the speech analysis. When we look at content of a speech, I do not mean the content per se in the sense that if the person has talked about women's empowerment, you should not say, why haven't you talked about gender equality? Why did you choose women's empowerment? Not content in that very broad sense. We are saying the tools which enhance or embellish the content of a speech. For example, if the good language has been used, that's a positive thing in speech. If there are dramatic expressions or situations which are part of the speech, which have helped to communicate the idea better, that's good. Are there personal stories which help connect better with the audience? Is there dialogue which makes it more interesting and lively? Is there audience interaction which enables the speaker to connect? Has he given examples of what he's saying? Are there quotations? Is there humor which lightens even the most serious speech? Is there data in the speech? Are there props, visual aids? Now, all these things are things that enhance the content of a speech. So whether that is there or not, these are things to look out for. Mind you, everything may not be relevant in a particular speech. Suppose somebody is giving a humorous speech. Now, you should not say why you don't put data in the speech. You should have. I mean, it's not relevant in that speech, so we can leave that parameter out altogether, right? So everywhere a visual aid may not be relevant. It's an inspirational speech. A visual aid would have slowed down the pace of the speech if a PowerPoint suddenly comes on. So it's not relevant in that speech. If it is a research speech, you might comment on it. So you have to pick and choose which are relevant for this particular speech and whether it's been done or not done. Okay. And of course, the third aspect is the delivery aspect. in terms of body and voice. So are there gestures, stage movements, facial expressions? How is the stance? Is it confident? And in the volume of the voice adequate? Does the pitch vary? Is the rate fairly drab, or does it, speed up and slow down, adding to the drama? And are there pauses which differentiate between sections and which provide a little bit of tension in the delivery? Now, these set of parameters are not written in stone. You can add your own. You can reduce from this if you feel it's too much. But by and large, if you have a checklist, you will not miss a point of evaluation. Now, the issue is this can be ready in a sheet in a club. Before you start the evaluation, you can prepare this. But in a contest, you may not be allowed to bring a pre-printed sheet and start. So in a contest, you may be forced to remember a lot of this and write it down right at the beginning of the speech. Or if that is too time consuming, at least make a block on the sheet of paper saying structure, content, delivery, positive, and recommendations. A 2x3 block. At least your mind will work on those blocks as you keep noting down things. But by now, I know this list by heart. I actually write it down in a minute before the evaluation starts so that I don't miss any point. So this checklist is a very important tool. If you're able to use it, you will not miss. Now, the doubt also comes that if I have to fill up this checklist, then when you listen to the speech, that problem doesn't go away. It's going to take time to fill up. Well, one need not really write essays. This is an example of filling up of the sheet. What I do is I just put a tick. If it's there, if there's logical flow, put a tick. And if it's very impressive, I put a double tick and maybe a word or two, just to help me recall what is it that impressed me. Does that make sense? So here, you're not writing down a lot, but you've noted down the essentials as to what the speaker covered and what he covered well. And if I'm saying what could be better, how it could be better, a few words I've written. Like, I don't know whether you can read this thing. So in the closing, I've said a message. Yes, he's put a message. There are still 3 stories. The tone is humorous. He was confident stance and so on and so forth. So that's all the noting. This won't take more than a minute out of that 7 minutes. So that leaves enough time for listening. Now, having done this, now you have noted all that is relevant, maybe 15 points in favor, 10 points against. Now you got to choose what is important to talk about. How do you do that? You don't have time to talk about so many. In my opinion, you would have time to maybe talk about 3 things you like, 3 things you would like the speaker to improve as a standard. If you go for 4, you may be squeezed in time, but 3 and 3 is what I usually do. So how to choose these 3? Let's look at it. There are 3 logical paths. One for, if you're a beginner, you can follow one path. If you're an intermediate evaluator, there's another path for you. If you're an advanced evaluator, I'll suggest a 3rd path. So let's look at them. The first and the easiest. Choose the 3 things which impressed you the most amongst what you liked, and the 3 most what impressed you the most, you remember the most, among those you think should be improved. Now, if they impressed you, they would be important. Easiest way to choose. Doesn't matter where it is, structure, content, delivery. All 3 may be delivery also, but you just choose them and talk about them. If you want to be more balanced in your feedback, what you can do is pick one from each. One from structure, one from content, one from delivery. Both in the liked and in the improvements. That will give the speaker a fairly wide feedback into all aspects of the speech. Whether it is a structural point, or it's a content point, or a delivery point, he would be happy to hear about all the aspects. Now, if you're an advanced evaluator, there's a little more you can do. What I call take 3 from the top. Now, there is a concept here which says that if you are making a point about a structure, that is more important than a point about the content, which is again more important than a point about delivery. Now, why do I say this? Think about this from the speaker's point of view. If he's given a good vocal variety, or if he's not been able to show too much facial expression, by and large, the speaker is aware of it. Yeah, because it's a very obvious limitation or an obvious accomplishment. And your feedback from him is a sort of semi-known thing. However, when you give a point about improving a content, he may know that this is missing, but he won't know how to do it. For example, suppose it's a serious speech, and you have said that there could have been a little humor. Maybe the speaker also thought so, but he didn't know how. You can show him how, and that will help him. So, in a content, sometimes the speaker knows what to do, but doesn't know how to do it. And your feedback is going to help him more. In structure, mostly the speaker will be so engrossed in his speech, he will not even be aware that his structure can be improved. Yeah, that is, balance of concept and examples is a little wonky, or his closing is not strong enough. These are things he will have no clue. Whereas you as a listener and an evaluator can give him this very, very valuable feedback. This is a part which mentors normally take care of. But if as an evaluator you can take care of it, it carries immense value to the speaker. And obviously, this is the order in which it impresses the judges also. If you can give a point about the structure, it's more impressive than if you give a point about content and about delivery. Therefore, suppose you have noted down 2 points of structure, 2 points of content, and 2 points of delivery. I would suggest you choose both from structure and 1 from content, leave out delivery. That's what I mean when I say take 3 from the top. So if I go back to that earlier sheet, now see on the like side, I've taken 1 from structure and 2 from delivery and left out 2 from content and left out delivery altogether because it's 3 from the top. Whereas on the recommendation side, I didn't have 2 points of structure and content, so I was forced to go up to delivery. But the approach here is 3 from the top. Okay. So you can take any of these 3 routes for choosing the 3 most important, 3 most impressive if you want it easy, 1 from each if you want it balanced, 3 from the top if you want it an impressive choice of points. Now, where are we now? Now we have chosen what we want to talk about, right? Now the thing is to structure it properly in a speech, make it positive sounding and acceptable to the speaker, right? So how do we go about that? The first 2, structure and being positive, is a matter of a floral arrangement. And the acceptability is a matter of how you give the thing. Anybody who is given a bouquet of flowers to a pretty girl will know the importance of the second part also. It's not only how well the bouquet is made, it's how you give it, which makes it acceptable, right? So we have to look at both. Let's look at arrangement first. A typical arrangement of an evaluation speech is called the sandwich. You will find this term everywhere, all over the place, Toastmasters and outside. And it's typically called the CRC, comment, recommend, comment. Now, the idea being that we start by saying something good so that the speaker is in a happy frame of mind and willing to listen to you. We then give the recommendations, which is important to the speaker. And we again end it with a word of praise so that his mood again becomes good and he goes away motivated. Praise, criticize, praise, comment, recommend, comment. That's the typical sandwich. I'll show you a few sandwiches which are not okay. For example, the whitewash sandwich, where we are only commending. There's no recommendation at all. There is no use actually to the speaker because he cannot improve from this sort of an evaluation. It's only good sounding, that's all. Some people give a supercritical sandwich, There is no commendation, full of recommendation and criticism. This may be useful, but it's not acceptable to the speaker. He'll close his mind if it's only criticism. A thin sandwich means you say just 1 point for, 1 point against. And after having spoken for 7 minutes, he expects something more. And then there is a humongous sandwich. Maybe 6 points like, 7 points improvement. So the speaker doesn't know how much to chew. Just 1 second. We take it. Got a bad throat. So, if you're at the final sandwich, give me a sec. Yeah. So if you're looking at the final sandwich, what we will do, we'll have an opening and say what I liked as the top bread. Then we'll get into how to improve, what is there to improve, and how to improve. Now this how is very, very important, and we'll harp upon it a little more later. And finally, we'll give a summary of what we spoke about and give a final motivating closing line. Okay. So we got an opening, what I liked, then an improvement, how to improve, and summary and closing. This is a sandwich. So what is it we are going to talk about in this sandwich? First, in the opening, usually it's good to give a topical opening, something in the environment, something that is happening today. Like if it's a school, you might say, in this place of learning, today we learned a lot about women's empowerment. A topical opening, which is interesting. You can mention the type of speech and the theme. Like I said that today we heard an inspirational speech on the subject of women's empowerment. And of course, you got to greet contest chair, eminent judges, and fellow Toastmasters. So that's part of the opening. Second, what I liked about this speech and examples of the same, very brief example, maybe 2 to 3 points. Even 2 points is not bad. 3 points is good. More than that is overkill. Actually, you don't need it. Although there may be more points and you want to make the speaker happy, please control, and I'll tell you why later on. Examples means I really like the way you inserted humor in the speech when you spoke about the horns of the bull. That is an example, not the full joke. What could be better? Here again, I recommend, actually, I go for 3 points because that's a comfortable thing. 2 is too less. 4 is sometimes very tight. So, although I mentioned 2 to 4, ideal is 3. So, here again, you have to say, today I felt that although you moved around on stage, it could have been choreographed better. So, that is a point of improvement. The how becomes very, very important. Because if we say this, the speaker is mentally saying, okay, I get it, but how? If you tell him that yours was a serious subject, a little bit of humor would have helped us, lighten the mood here and there. The speaker is mentally saying, okay, but where? So unless you demonstrate, it is of very limited value to the speaker because he doesn't know how to do it and he's looking to you to tell how to do that improvement. So that's why how is in very big lettering there. Whenever it's a point of improvement, you have to tell how. And finally, jumped around. My goodness, I have to just scroll through. Yeah, finally, when we are talking about the summary and closing, the bullet points of what you have said till now. For example, you will say, in conclusion, what I liked in the speech was ABC. If only you could have XYZ, it would have been a fantastic speech. So that is the bullet closing, the summary. It's very, very important because in the 3 minutes, that's perhaps the thing that the speaker goes away with finally. So unless we provide a summary, we are not really giving full value to the speaker. Okay. Now, what is this sheet? You recollect that we have written down our check sheet like this. Now, this thing is very jumbled. If you go on stage with this particular sheet and try to read out from here, at least I get very confused as to what I've written, what I have to read out. So I mark here 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and transfer it to another sheet. Although this is pre-formatted, you can just write it, where I just note down what is that opening line which I've thought of, which might be interesting. And what are those 3 points which I said I liked, and what are those 3 improvements I've recommended? And what's my closing line? So this is the sheet I will glance at when I'm speaking, and I don't lose track. Okay, there's not too much detail here. For example, in that speech, which was about painting, on which I made those notings, I've said as an opening, life is full of colors, and today we heard an entertaining speech on painting. That's the opening line I've thought of, so I just wrote it down. And I wrote what I liked: messages, 3 stories, humorous tone. These are the 3 which I'm going to talk about. And the examples are there in my mind. And the improvements are: opening was unclear, we could have done audience interaction, and pauses between stories was required. And the closing is, I am sure you will paint the town red. Now, this is my check sheet. Where it is especially useful is when summarizing that final time pressure, when you have to reel off those bullet points. This sheet comes in great use for me because I say, in conclusion, what I liked was your message, your 3 stories, and your humorous tone. If only your opening was clear, you could have asked audience about the paintings and pause between stories. I am sure you would have painted the town red. You get what I mean? In 20 seconds, you can close. Without this sort of a tool, you'll be wandering all around the place for 1 minute for closing. So this summary sheet is also important if you can manage to create it before you hand over the sheet to the Sergeant at Arms. Now, we have come to a stage where we have made the matter of our evaluation ready. Okay, we're almost ready to deliver when called upon to do so. But there's one guy we've forgotten till now, who is a judge. So in whatever we did till now, will it make this guy happy? Let's take a look at what is it that the judge is looking for and see whether these 2 are in sync. Okay. This is a judge's ballot sheet. Some of you may have seen it, some of you may not have seen it. You're seeing it for the first time. So let me explain. The judge looks at certain things when judging, which is there in that column. Analytical quality, recommendation, technique, submission. I'll explain what they mean. And he's got vertical columns for the different speakers. So he's going to put scores. What are the scores like? If you take analytical quality, where it is written in that sheet, it should be clear and focused. It carries 40 points. Analytical quality is telling the judge that I've understood the speech as an evaluator. I know how to analyze the speech, and these are the parameters I've analyzed it on, and these are my commendations and recommendations. That is the analysis, and that is the quality the judge is looking for, whether you've been able to take the speech apart. Second, recommendation, 30 points. This recommendation is not the CRC recommendation per se, because that recommendation contained the point of improvement and the demonstration. This recommendation in the judge's sheet is the demonstration. If you read the full description, which is there in the second page, it talks about whether the evaluator has demonstrated how to do that improvement. You see the importance of that how 40 points for analysis, what you liked and what you didn't like. 30 points for telling the speaker how he can improve. It's extremely important, and many people are unable to do this. My suggestion is if you cannot tell how to improve, you should not mention that point of improvement at all. It goes against, in fact. Third, technique. Sympathetic, sensitive, motivational. 15 points. Now, what is technique? Technique is the manner of delivery that we talked about. To deliver in a positive and acceptable manner, which also we're going to cover. Now, when we have to be sensitive and sympathetic and motivational to the speaker, it comes through in words as to how we have structured it, like the CRC is actually a technique which makes the speaker comfortable, and also the particular line by line language that you're going to use when talking to the speaker is also part of the technique. We will look at that also. And fourth is summation, that summary and closing in the end, which is reeled off in such a short space of time, carries 15 points. There's so many evaluations where we sit and sadly see the person has run out of time and he could not summarize. And just for saying that one extra sentence of some discussion recommendation, he missed the summary altogether. And in a contest, it is going to cost you 15 points. So please don't neglect summary. Keep time for the summary and learn to summarize very, very fast. We will see how to do that a little later. So now the judge is saying, I want to look at analytical quality. I want to look at recommendations, which is how to improve. I want to see that you have a nice technique for communicating. And I want to see you summarize. Now, are we doing that? Let's see. This was our sandwich. These 2 points take care of analytical quality. This how takes care of recommendation. This summary and closing takes care of the summation. And technique is something which is there overall, right? So the way we have designed it should make the judge happy as well. Only thing we have not looked at is this technique in full. So let's look at that. Technique is a very subtle and interesting thing. Let's move to technique. This is my favorite slide. You can unmute and tell me which show this is from, those of you who know. This is a particular MasterChef. MasterChef, which MasterChef?
Australia.
Australia, right. Who's that judge? Now we are getting deep. Name of the judge. No, is George. Very, very critical guy, but very emotional guy also. He also starts crying if the contestant starts crying. Okay, now what I want you to focus on is the expression of that cook, the person, the contestant. Look at him. Our speakers are like that. They don't really stand up and put their hands over their eyes, but inside, that's how they're feeling. How is this guy going to speak about my speech? So this is where the technique of communicating the evaluation becomes important. Unless the technique is right, unless the bouquet is delivered in a nice manner, unless that speaker is open in his mind to listen to your speech, all your checklist, all your choosing 3 points, all your CRC is useless. Because after your first sentence, the speaker has put up a wall. He's not listening to you anymore. And the judge can make that out, that the tone of your evaluation will not be acceptable to the speaker. And he's going to mark you down. It is like you take a very nice bouquet to that pretty girl, and then while talking to your friend, you just hand it over. Will that girl like it? No. She needs some bhav, doesn't she? You have to give some bhav to the speaker when you're giving the evaluation. Not just blind praise. By bhav, I mean courtesy and kindness. How do we do that? What are the tips for that? Let's see. Number 1, speak to the speaker. This is something I follow, although there are some views to the contrary. What I mean here is, there are 2 ways of giving a point, saying that the speaker opened his speech like this, Or you can say, Mr. So-and-so, you opened your speak like this, which I loved. Which do you think sounds better? The second one, doesn't it? Because the speaker would love to be spoken to directly. So speak to the speaker. Don't speak in the third person. That today we heard him and he delivered such a nice piece. No, tell the speaker, you did a damn good job. That makes more sense. Express as a personal opinion, not as a public opinion. We need not say that I'm sure the audience was somewhat confused by your third paragraph. I am in no position to talk about what the audience thinks. Whereas if I say that I personally found it a little confusing how your third story went, that will be much more interesting to the speaker and acceptable to him, right? Because it's one-on-one personal opinion going around. Suggest improvements sympathetically. It makes general sense that if you want to suggest an improvement, you say you could have done that. Instead of saying you should have done that and why didn't you do that, like that. In that tone, this could, I wish, I feel, those words are sympathetic suggestions and very important to gradually bring into your vocabulary. It may not happen in the beginning, but as you keep your awareness high on this front, it will come into your vocabulary. Keep examples brief. Now, this is a very favorite point of mine because it bugs me no end. When I hear an evaluator who says, I really like that joke where that bull went to that fence and the other goat was peeping over it and they had a brief chat about how the grass was on that side. Arre Baba, we also have heard that speech and we know the example in full. We need not say it all over again. It's boring and you are wasting precious time. So you just say, I loved your joke about that bull and the goat. Finished. We know what you're talking about. Judge knows you have noted it. Evaluate the speech, not the speaker. Now, this is a very subtle point. Sometimes we say that today you were inaudible, or I wish you were more audible today. You're addressing the person and it's a personal judgment. Whereas if you order it slightly and say, today your speech was not very audible, there's a subtle difference that you are something and your speech which is a temporary phenomenon, is something else. It's not a personal opinion. Yeah. So this is a subtle language point. If you can bring it into your evaluation, it will help. Don't show off speaking skills. This is not an ISC speech, neither it is a table topic speech. If you notice the judges' points, there are no points for your voice delivery, for your stage movement, for your dramatics, for your dialogue and characterization. Don't do it. You may do it very subtly in the opening and in the end to differentiate your evaluation from the others. But in the solid portion in the middle, please stick to pure reason. That is what the speaker is looking for, clarity of thought so that he can design things better. He doesn't want to see your great speaking skills, neither does the judge. Don't waste time. Be encouraging overall, everywhere. Your face, your manner, your gestures, let it be pleasant and encouraging. So these are all part of technique. 15 points are there for technique, and these will help you get those points, and at least this will help you not to get marked down to 5 or something if you goof up somewhere very, very badly. So try to keep it top of mind. Okay. Let's come to the last point, and this is a heavy point. How do we do this? Most of us are able to finish our evaluation. There's nobody ever who doesn't. Very few people overshoot. But the quality of evaluation suffers if we don't manage the time inside the evaluation. I will share with you what I use as my target time. It may not suit everybody, but if you are able to move towards it, because I'll tell you the reason why it is, I feel that your evaluations will improve. First, opening statement, 25 seconds. Today we heard a fantastic speech, inspirational speech on the subject of women's empowerment. In this place of learning, this was the ideal thing to do. 15 seconds, I finished that. You have 25 seconds, right? Contest here, this, that, karke. Don't spend more time than that. Whatever you can differentiate in that 25 seconds, okay? While you're pacing outside the room, this is a thing to prepare. Now, we are getting into hot water. In my opinion, even if you're mentioning 3 points you liked, I like to finish it in 45 seconds. You can go up to a minute, but definitely not more than 1 minute. Two reasons for it. One, the speaker already knows what he did well. The judge knows that the speaker knows what he did well. As long as you have conveyed to the speaker and to the judge that you have analyzed his speech properly and you have noted those points, that's all that is required. You just say, I loved your opening, the way you put across your message on women's empowerment, this, that. I like the way you included the 3 stories of this, this, and this because it connected with me better. And I like the way that you inserted humor in that serious part about this, where you spoke about the bull and the goat. Done. This job is over. You will get your full marks for things you liked. What I've told you would have taken 40 seconds. I'm telling you 45 seconds to 1 minute. First reason is that people know this part. Second reason is the more you stretch this, the less time you have for recommendations. Haven't you felt many a time when giving your evaluation that I have run out of time in the recommendation? Why is that? Because you have wandered around for 1.5 minutes talking about 7 things you liked about that speech. It's nice to talk about nice things, right? It's very difficult to be ruthless in this part, and it's important because, in my opinion, improvement and demonstration should take 1 minute 45 seconds minimum. Why do I say that? Suppose you have to convey 3 points. It will take you 10 seconds to talk about that point. It will take you another 20-25 seconds to demonstrate the improvement. If it's a stage movement, you have to walk around and show, right? If it's a vocal thing, you have to really speak that dialogue again and show. If it's about a facial expression or a gesture, you have to spend some time showing those things. And you have to be comfortable in time when demonstrating. You cannot do it under pressure. It's very, very difficult to demonstrate under pressure because whatever you've thought of, you're going to miss. If I'm even talking about 3 points, it takes me 1 minute 45 seconds. And I make sure that the speaker has understood how exactly it is to be improved. So the more we stress the liked part, the less time we have here. And we have to cut down. We are able to say only 2 points of improvement and demonstration instead of the 3, which is a shame because that is the important part. Now, as you can make out from where I marked the flag starting, if you see the green when you're starting your improvement points, you are very late. You can talk about only 2 points. You definitely cannot talk about 3 points. Forget about it. Choose the 2 most important. When you're entering your improvement section, it should still be on gray. You would have finished your first improvement, then it should go to green. Then you know you are well in time. Okay. So when you're doing your practices, do this. Do it with your timer tool or whatever and see when it goes to green. You should be well inside your improvement section when it is going to green. Then you know you can cover the 3 points which are mandatory practically in an evaluation to tell, contest to tell. Okay. So please leave enough time. I usually do my closing inside the red, but that needs practice. So if you want, you start inside the yellow, no problem, and give yourself a little more space to do that. But then remember, you're eating into your improvement time and adjust the time accordingly, the amount you want to talk about. So once the yellow has come on, you got a minute. After, say, 45 seconds in your mind, you start summarizing. But if you're able to do this expertly after practice, you are maximizing your recommendation time, which is a very, very good thing to do. So in my opinion, this is an ideal situation for the timeline for an evaluator. Like you can go up to 1 minute. Closing, you can stretch up to 30-35 seconds, but that's about it. Now, this I've been talking from the speaker's point of view. Does it make sense from the judge's point of view? The points that he's allotting, the time that we're putting here, does it match? Let's see. Time spent, opening. This time I mentioned corresponds to 15% of the time. And opening is actually a differentiator. It is not part of the parameters. So, okay, we have to give some differentiator also. The analytical quality. This whole thing of liked is analytical quality. And the points of improvement portion of this improvement demonstration segment is the analytical quality. Now, this put together is 40% of the time. And 40% marks the judge gives, right? The recommendation, meaning the how portion of this 1.5 minute block is basically 30% of the time. Judge gives 30% marks there, no? And this final closing of 25 seconds, 15% of the time. 15 marks the judge is giving. Overall technique, which is there all over the place, the other 15 marks. So this balance of time which I've described to you more or less matches with the weightage that the judge gives to these particular sections. So if you stick to it, you will not be going against what the judge's priorities are as well. In fact, on the contrary, if you make an effort to improve the time given to your demonstration and improvement, you'll be more in sync with the expectation of the judge. Now, if there is one single thing I'd like you to take away from this slide, and I would request you to practice in today's mock evaluation, is start improvement before the green. You should be still in the gray screen when improvement starts so that you're comfortable. And in order to do that, you have to be ruthless in the likes. So if you're able to get to that stage, you would have improved dramatically in your time management. I will end with one particular slide only, which is, since we're talking about contests, how to prepare for contests. That is, apart from mock evaluations, at home. Well, I used to watch award-winning evaluations to see what sort of openings they use, which are the differentiators. Then I used to practice on club speeches on YouTube, not on the international winning speeches. They're very tough to evaluate. But there are many speeches which are club level. Pick up a speech, listen to it, close it, and give yourself 5 minutes. Because you might be the first contestant, right, in the contest. So give yourself 5 minutes, then start evaluating. Okay? So that's the way to practice, and do it in front of a mirror with that timer tool in front of you, where the screen changes from gray to green to yellow to red, so that you know how you're progressing. Practice time management that way. Focus on the differentiators, meaning when you're doing this practice, try to come up with different openings, different closings, which may be topical or which may not be topical. The non-topical things are called themes. That is, you decide that, okay, I use a painting theme. This speech may be on women's empowerment. But you say a nice speech is like a painting, and the speaker is given different brush strokes. And the strokes which I really liked are these. Then you put one transition line and say, in spite of the best effort, sometimes one color splashes into another. So there is always a little more fine-tuning and blending we can do. And you give the improvement points. And finally, you say, if you take care of all this, you're going to create masterpieces every time. So those are theme-based evaluations. I personally don't like them, but they can be effective in contests. So you can decide on 2-3 themes. Trouble is, if some of your other contestant uses a particular theme, then you have had it. You can't repeat that theme. You have to go with the flow. And practice in front of seniors and take their feedback as to how it can be improved. So that's the way to prepare for contests specifically. All right. So before closing, I will just highlight what you can practice effectively from this workshop. 1, try creating check sheets before you start. Even if you cannot list down everything, at least say structure, content, delivery, what I liked, what is the improvement, so that you got it in a organized way on a piece of paper. 2nd, transfer the ones that you selected to another sheet so that you're not confused. So I'd use that sheet when you're delivering. In that sheet, you can even write the opening and the closing. 3rd, when you're delivering, try to be as tight as possible on things that you liked and take your time about the demonstrations. Create time for that, because that is of the highest value to the speaker and to the judge. So if you're able to do these 3 things out of this workshop, I don't have time to practice them with you, but please do it on your own when you're practicing. then I'm sure you will do well in contests to the level of going to podium finishes, because I can tell you very, very confidently, these are the things where the most failures happen in evaluation. So we take care of these essentials, automatically you're thrown to the top. So just remember these, practice these, and I'm sure that you'll do well. Thank you. That was all from my side. Now, if the moderator allows and there's any time, maybe there can be some questions.